It's a lot. Hey, my name's Hugh, and I'm from New Zealand, so I talk a bit funny. And I did work in that Olympic space for a while, and it is, 4 years to be good for 2 weeks and hope to be good for the last 2 hours. That kind of sums it up. But now I work at the University of Minnesota, and I coach volleyball there. And one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot was, what's sport really about? Because obviously, having operated in that space where it's all about winning, the whole thing is geared towards getting on the podium. And now being at an institution where we do choose to take a more holistic approach. And then, of course, I have children. My wife and I have 2 children, and seeing their experience in youth sport, it just seemed like it was worth having a talk about coaching. And I'm not here to tell you right from wrong. I don't profess to know that. But I want to talk a little bit about maybe some effective and efficient methods that can help people to make sport a great experience for people, for kids especially. And maybe it can translate to high school or even into college and beyond. But the things we're talking about are mainly about sport and about coaching. So if that's not your wheelhouse, I apologize. Just hang tight. In 10 minutes, we'll be done. But what I do think is that sport's really analogous to life, and that's the thing that I want to try to hit home, is this idea that we can learn a lot about life through sports. So the narrowed down version of this is, hey, what's the value of sport to our society? And then on the other side of it, what responsibility do our coaches have to create that value? Now, when I was looking at all of this, I found a description from the United Nations that I thought was really quite apt. They said that sport was a pathway to responsible citizenship. And I think that's a good description, really, because, yes, for a select few, no question, sport can absolutely be a path to, college scholarships and professional contracts, even Olympic medals, no question. But for the majority, right, for the many, the rewards of sport are a little bit different. Aside from the obvious health benefits of exercise, right, there's life lessons that you can learn, life skills in sport, like working hard and persevering and, being a good teammate and communicating and perhaps even things like learning to compete and emotional control, managing success and, in this current day and age, more importantly, managing failure. And just as an aside, anyone who's become great at anything has made plenty of mistakes along the way. They weren't defined by those, failures, right? They just learned from them. The problem I'm seeing now, though, in our current world of comparison, is that sports value is being somehow diminished to the outcomes. And not that outcomes don't matter, but sport's more than that. That's what I want to talk to you about, right? So if sport's just about the wins and losses, when people don't get the outcomes they want, well, they tend to stop playing, for fear of looking foolish or seeming insufficient. And so I'd like to suggest that making sport all about winning is actually a net loss for our society. Now, committing to a process of competitive excellence where you do things like work really hard as you can, and you learn and you make changes, and you compete to the best of your ability, and you try to help those around you be better, well, that seems like a more healthy and beneficial way to approach this. So if we want sport to be this societal value add, right, this path to responsible citizenship, then I think our coaches, the leaders of these athletic endeavors, have to be somehow responsible for these life skill outcomes in addition to the sports skill ones. So as Scott said, right, spoiler alert, I'm a coach, and I've been coaching volleyball for the last 25 years. I've coached professionally and internationally. Now I'm coaching collegiately. I've coached both men and women, and we've had a reasonable amount of competitive success with all of these teams. But connected to this success has been this different application of a set of guiding principles across 3 main areas: teaching, coaching, and mentoring. And it's this broader definition of coaching responsibility that I'd like to discuss further with you. So I want to start with teaching, which, in my opinion, presents the greatest opportunity for improvement. Now, science will tell us that the correlation between an athlete's initial ability and their final ability is actually really low. So it's not how they start their athletic careers. It's how they finish them. And it's going to be their ability to work and to learn, and that's going to be facilitated by a coach, right? And whatever natural talents they possess, that's going to have the biggest impact on how good they become. Now, we tend to teach the way we were taught, right? And tradition is great. We should all respect it, but it should never be the right reason for doing anything unless, of course, it's the right reason. So to teach effectively, you're going to need a clearly defined teaching method that's based in some scientific rigor, right? A way that you're going to present and teach the fundamental skills and systems of your sport. Now, you're also going to need to create some skill constructs. These are frameworks that describe these critical elements of a skill by chunking information, saying a little, meaning a lot. Things like, keep your head down or swing through the ball or keep your eye on it perhaps. Anyway, you get the idea, right? So these chunks of information are going to be better understood and retained and applied by your athletes. And we call these chunks keys, right? So all of these skills have a certain number of keys, and we want to keep that number low because our human brains have a limited capacity to process information. Now, planning efficient practices that are going to maximize opportunities to respond and opportunities for feedback is also really important. And we need to design drills that do that too. Now, if we're at basketball practice and we're working on our free throws, as we should, we've got 12 athletes lined up shooting at one hoop, and assuming that they're taking about 20 seconds per attempt, well, that's each athlete getting one shot every 4 minutes. Not optimal. If we can split them into groups of 3, have them shooting at 4 hoops, now all of a sudden we're getting 1 shot per minute, and we're going to get better engagement, more feedback, better learning, and just like that, practice can be 4 times better, right? So don't just show up to your practices and wing it. Take the time to write them out and plan them based on, the resources at your disposal and the skills required for success in your sport. And just as an aside, please make sure that the coach isn't the one getting the most reps in practice. Putting athletes in game-like environments is also really critical for effective learning, right? If we're going to maximize transfer, we need to train to reality. So the way that we practice should look a lot like the way that we compete. Now, these game-like environments also evoke game-like emotional responses from your athletes, and we can teach them how to deal with those too. I have a very dear friend in the sports psychology world that's no longer with us, Ken Revisit, and he used to say this: if you can control yourself, you can control your performance, and that's so true. But you can only learn to control yourself by being put in uncomfortable situations and then learning, right, through feedback and experience, how to manage those moments of adversity. All right, now I want to talk about coaching. Now, the common perception of the coaching profession, right, seems to focus almost exclusively on things that we're doing in the moment of competition itself. But what we're doing there is more like competition management, right? It's calling timeouts and making substitutions and tactical adjustments and creating game plans. Things that maximize our athlete or our team's chances of competitive success. Now, when it comes to scouting, all teams and all athletes have patterns. So basic observation and data collection can help anyone to formulate a really good game plan. And while it's important, right, to identify and to play to your opponent's weaknesses, I think it's equally, if not more important, to play to your own strengths. And also, coaches, remember that the contest is going to be won on the field of play, not on your clipboard, right? So don't try to do things tactically that your athletes can't do technically. Now, during the contest, try to coach to the present moment, right? I see so many coaches berating their athletes about what they did or didn't do on the last play. But guess what? That play's over, and we've got to get ready for the next one, right? We absolutely need to make in-game tactical, technical adjustments, but those should be rational discussions, not emotional ones. And remember, your job as the coach is to help your athletes succeed. So while it's okay, and I'd say, in fact, it's necessary for coaches to be demanding, it's never okay for a coach to be demeaning. Finally, let's talk about mentoring, right? Cheers, thank you. Let's talk about mentoring, which we can broadly define as a trust-based relationship that's going to provide psychological support and then the transfer of relevant knowledge and information. Now, mentors can be incredibly impactful, and I'm sure we can all remember a coach or a teacher that had a profound positive influence on us. Now, to build this strong mentor-mentee connection, you need trust. And for coaches to build trust, well, they've got to be trustworthy, right? Now, trustworthy coaches are going to lead with character and integrity. They're going to be credible sources of knowledge and information. They're going to be consistent in their actions and interactions. They're going to be loyal to those they coach, and they're going to be real, right? They're going to be authentic. And it's this authentic influence that's created by this healthy mentor-mentee connection that makes all of these changes and synergies that we're talking about here possible. I think it's a privilege to be called coach. It's certainly not a right. And remember, it's not about you, but it is up to you. And by applying these guiding principles that we've talked about here to your coaching, and by genuinely caring about your athletes as people, not just competitive commodities, they're going to get better at sport, no question, but they're also going to get better at life. And this whole, thing about learning and competing, this whole process is really challenging at any age or at any level. And your job as the coach is to help your athletes to manage those moments so that one day they'll be able to manage them on their own, right? And they will have learned how to work hard and the importance of perseverance and the benefits of working well with others. And of course, the profound satisfaction that comes with learning and achievement. But these aren't sports skills, right? They're life skills. And they're the keys to responsible citizenship. But winning, well, that doesn't guarantee you'll learn any of them. They are learned, though, through best effort and being held to a standard of competitive excellence by a coach who's going to teach and coach and mentor. And the wins and losses, well, yeah, they'll fade over time. But your positive influence can stay with that athlete for the rest of their lives. And that, right there, is the win we should all be looking for. Cheers.